Hello, welcome to another episode of Logan's Movie Reviews, and today we are talking about the film Tupac Resurrection from 2003, a documentary, and I'm joined once again by One Silver. What's up, man?
Hey, good afternoon, Logan. Good afternoon, movie fans, hip hop fans, as we talk about one of the greatest documentaries ever done on a pop culture icon, Tupac Resurrection.
Yeah, all done in his own words, directed by, who is this director?
Lauren
Lauren Lays.
Lazin, or Lazine, however you say her name. By the way, this movie was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary.
Does she happen to be the reporter that he's talking to through most of the film, or is that
No, no, that's Tabitha Soren.
okay? They look alike, but
Yeah,
Lauren Lays
they
and
do favor each other. They do favor each other, but no. Matter of fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Lauren Lazin or Lazine, however you say her name, was Tabitha Soren's boss at MTV.
okay, and she never appears in the film.
No, no.
Okay, so yeah, so this kind of goes through. A lot of people know the story of Tupac, but rarely do they get so much footage of somebody talking about their life and themselves and kind of the way that this guy kind of prophesized what would happen to him beforehand, which is pretty eerie. But yeah, great to have this footage. Where did this footage primarily come from? A single interview,
The,
or
no, the majority of this footage is empty. See, Lauren Lazin and Tabitha Soren worked at MTV for years. If you look at Lauren Lazin's filmography, and she did a ton of work for MTV and VH1. And she was a documentarian she did and she was a producer of many shows on MTV. So she was able to secure through her working with MTV footage of Tupac that they shot when Tupac was was in the mainstream from 1991 to 1996.
right? Yeah, I mean, not a very long stint, but very pivotal in the history of hip hop.
Well,
Almost
put it
like
this way: his 5 years blow away anybody else's 20 years in the history of hip hop, right?
that's true. Um, so let's get into this. Unless you have any more background stuff you want to talk about.
No, no, it was nominated for Academy Award, and you'll see the similarities between this one and What's My Name, Muhammad Ali, when we talk about it next week. I mean, documentaries, and I wish more documentaries like this are made, where it's just the guy, the subject, talking about his life.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes they just don't have that commentary that exists. Like they they were big talkers, Tupac and Muhammad
Yes,
Ali, but
yes, yes.
but
You're
a lot
right.
of
You're
people
right. And
don't
so it
have
makes
that.
and I love how both these documentaries, the directors cut and paste the stuff and put it into what was going on in their lives at that time. Which is, I mean, it would just be great. You could do it, and it might have been done. I didn't see the documentary. It was a documentary that was president last year on HBO. It might have been done in his own words as well.
All right. Well, this one opens up to the song "Rear View," which was a posthumously released song. Um, and as they're playing the song, it ends in some shots, and they go right to when he got shot, and he was talking about his thoughts about when he got shot. He always thought he'd be shot. He said because a lot of people that hated him, and but he didn't think that this was his time of his death, and it turned out that first time that he was shot wasn't. and he also like kind of ruminates on the idea of death and why it's sad. He's like at worst it's just nothingness. At best you're an angel and you're floating around. He's like, I just don't think that it's such a bad thing. Um, and then he talks about being an artist and how he didn't have to tell the truth. He would just have to tell a good story with a moral. And he was he kind of reflects on his life about how he was different for different people, and that like for some people in the hood, like he was their champion, and then for other people, unfortunately, he was imitated as a thug by people who weren't even in that life, and he kind of struggles with that idea, like whether he's a bad influence or not. He talks about how he's in for some people he's a thug and a rapper, other people he's a born leader and a poet. So and then he has different images with women. Some women consider him to be like a misogynist, and then some see that he actually is very supportive of women. And of course, he has a lot of songs uh, that show that he supports women. He talks about his mother first. His mother, probably the most influential person in his life. Um, she's a black. She was a Black Panther. Is she alive? She's dead, right?
She died just a few weeks before Prince died, and
Yeah.
a couple of months before Muhammad Ali died back in 2016. Those three deaths happened within a 60-day window.
Yeah. So she was very active in the Black Panther movement, and they showing footage of her, and which is kind of rare for a woman. Even Tupac talks about how there was even misogyny in the Black
Yep,
Panthers.
in the Black Panthers. Yeah, as in every organization.
Right. And of course, back then, women weren't, they didn't have the same status, and they were very much a minority. So she named her son after an Inca warrior named Tupac, and his stepfather got the rest of his name, which is Matulu Shakur. And then he talked about how his godfather was Geronimo Pratt, and he's talking about his mother, similar to what would happen to him in the future, was charged with a crime, and she beat the case being her own lawyer. But she was in jail while she was pregnant with Tupac, and so he even remarks how even his embryo was in jail. Um, and at first, he said that she was so into the movement that he didn't see her that much, and that he didn't really have like a big relationship with her until she kind of got out and started spending more time with him. And at that point, she was very influential and very strict with him. But he kind of complains that because he never had a real father, he really didn't know how to be a real man. And that he's talking about how you really need a man to be in your life to teach you how to be a man, and that a woman really can't do it. And he's talking about how if he had a father, he'd be more confident, and his mother, couldn't show him, what a real man was. Um, so he just talked about how when he was a kid, he was very quiet and he would just watch TV a lot. Mostly, it looks like he watched Different Strokes, and that's when
Yeah,
he
I
decided.
like those scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he decided he wanted to be an actor, and he said that if I could just be an actor like these people, maybe I'd be happy. And he talked about how he got his first acting job at the Apollo Theater when Jesse Jackson came to visit, and he was running for president. Is this 1984?
1984. The name of the
Yeah,
play was A Raisin in the Sun. Yeah.
right. And he was talking about how after he did that, he fell in love with acting. He said it was better than sex. In order to get away from the element in New York, his mom moved him to Baltimore, which ended up being even worse. He's talking about how it was like number one in the cities for black on black crime, and he was sent though to a pretty good school, a school mostly white people, school of the
Now,
performing arts.
it was a worse environment as far as crime, but for him, artistically, it was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Right. And he was acting there. I mean, he learned how to act. He went to acting school. I mean, people don't like. People think of Tupac sometimes. They think like this guy.
It was the Baltimore School of the Performing Arts, and
Yeah.
it's funny they show a clip. This is. I remember when I first saw this movie on videotape. I was watching it with my mother and my son, and I started laughing when they showed the clip of him and Jada Pinkett dancing to a Will Smith song, and I said, "You know what's the irony of that?" And my mother's like, "Yeah, that's right. She wasn't marrying the guy she's doing a parody to."
That's right. She didn't even know him then.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was on TV at the time, right? I mean, he was doing Fresh Prince.
No, at that time he wasn't on TV at the time.
Oh, that's right. He didn't make it.
He was 17 when he had his first #1 hip hop song. Parents Just Don't Understand.
That's right.
And that's the song they're performing. They're performing to. And years later, she would meet and marry him, which is is very ironic.
Definitely. So she was talking about how there was. He did start selling drugs for about 2 weeks, but then he said that like the drug dealers were like
that's where they moved to California to Oakland.
Yeah, yeah. When he met with Shock G. Well, hold on 1 second. Before that, he goes. Right. Okay, so he was. We have a show of him being interviewed by Tanya Hart. Let's see what is. So he goes to. So once they move out of Baltimore and they go to Cali, and he at the time like it was Marin City, I guess, where he went.
Yeah, which is a suburb of Oakland, right?
Yeah, but he said they didn't have any money, and his mom had gotten into drugs.
Right.
So they started, and he started selling drugs, but the drug dealers like wouldn't let him. They're just like, no, you do your music, and they kind of became his sponsors. And then they show him some footage with Digital Underground, with Humpty, Shock G, and they invited him on the road. I mean, he auditioned for them, and they took him right away, and they let him do his own song, his first single called Same Song. And we see him having a real good time on tour with these guys, and he talks about how probably that was the best, most happiest time of his life. And then he gets a record deal out of that for Tupacalypse Now, just because one of the record executives' daughter thought he was cute. It was like she was like almost like a teen. I mean, she was not even like a preteen, but yeah. So
yeah, she was a little girl.
Yeah. And I actually met this girl one day in New York one time. She came to a party that I was at, and she was talking about how she was like the one who kind of
basically discovered him.
Yeah, and I don't think if it wasn't for her, I don't think he would have been. I think he would have been passed over because. Go ahead.
Well, no, the true talent rises to the top, and plus he was with Digital Underground, and eventually, if he would have kept rapping on their records, somebody would have noticed that he would have gotten a deal. Was aided him to get a record deal quicker than what he normally would have.
Right, and the record he put out was very controversial. Tupacalypse Now, a lot of hard-hitting songs. Brenda's Got a Baby, and some very violent lyrics also.
Trapped was a great song. Brenda's Got a Baby. Love that album because that's Tupac in his Public Enemy mode.
Definitely. Yeah, and we have to remember that came out before him, and he was on that tip. He probably loved that shit. So
yeah. Yeah, Chuck
but
D.
he got
Chuck D was one of his idols. Chuck D was one of his
yeah,
idols, as he always talked about.
he got a lot of shit though for it, and from everybody from the vice president to Dolores Tucker, and just getting they didn't like the image of black youth that he was portraying, but he's talking about
And
look
and
like
and, and Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore.
yeah. And he talks about how during the Vietnam War, it was the pictures from the war, from the journalists that kind of ended it in the minds of the American public. It turned them against the war. So his idea was, if I could do an album that shows what I'm living through, the war that most poor black people are in, that maybe that will end it. You know, no such luck there, but he tried, and that was kind of his intention of depicting it the way he did. And they show an interview with Tanya Hart, and I guess is that the woman that's in the movie for the most part, like that he's walking
No, no,
around
no, no,
with.
no, 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 no. The woman he's
Oh,
walking
actually, no,
around
that's a
with,
white woman.
Tanya Hart's is an older black woman. Tabitha
Right.
Soren was, I think, in her 20s when she was working for MTV, and she did that whole interview. By the way, that interview that she did with Tupac, Tabitha Soren, the one that dominates the movie, that happens like a week after he's released from prison in 1995.
Okay. So he's just talking about how, he's 20 years old. He's like, my ear is to the streets, and this is my 20-year report on what I've seen. And my number one enemy in my album is the crooked police. And he's like, shit happened. The shit that I wrote about in the song, like, really didn't happen to me. They happened to my homeboys. But the minute I got a record, I ended up getting a police record. So he's like, I didn't even have a record until
which was
I put one out.
A horrible incident. Which was a horrible incident in which he and it is depicted in the movie All Eyes on Me, when he's arrested for jaywalking and beaten by the police. A beating he only got $42,000 for the lawsuit.
Right, but he won that. I mean, because it was completely police harassment, and this was like around the time of Rodney King. And Rodney King, he was talking about how Rodney King, he's having trouble proving his case, and there's video, so, and he ended up getting nothing for his trouble, Rodney King. I mean, he shows the scar on his, Tupac shows the scar on his face, and he talks about, how he was settled it with, for $42,000, and then he gets condemned by the VP, saying there's no reason for a record like this to be published. Then he gets the role of Juice the Bishop role, and he talks about how this guy is kind of like one side of him, but not really, and that this guy's like a lot of people that are living in the hood, like they have their idols are like fucking Scarface and gangsters in the movies, and they show that very powerful scene of where he shoots one of his friends trying to take a gun away from him in the movie, and he gets a lot of praise for that role. I mean, I think he was considered to be the most magnetic figure in the movie. He goes on the Arsenio Hall show. And we see that also that he gets the role of Poetic Justice, and we see Gene Siskel praising him, and he's playing a guy named Lucky, a much softer character than Bishop, and then they talk about how in Atlanta he was charged with shooting at police officers. Now, what is that story? Did he actually shoot?
Yes, this is what happened. This happened, matter of fact, this happened just a few weeks before he was charged with rape. It was either late October, early November of 1993. He's driving with some friends in Atlanta when he sees a young black man being accosted by two white men. So he gets out the car and he's like, "Hey, leave the brother alone." And the two, they're undercover cops, but they're not wearing their cops. They're not
they
wearing
don't identify
themselves.
Yeah.
They like, man, why don't you shut up? And they pulled their guns out, and before they could fire at Tupac shot both of them. Matter of fact, he shot one of them in the back of the ass. And then the police came and he was arrested for attempted murder on 2 police officers. But he won the case. He beat the case.
Right.
Because
it was self-defense.
Yes, it was self-defense. They never identified themselves as police officers when they pulled out their weapons.
That's amazing, man. And after that,
the only time in the history of mankind where a black man got away from shooting 2 cops.
Yeah. I mean, but the police after that, they had a hard-on for him. They probably wanted to get ever since.
Yes, and I always felt that had something to do with the rape charges.
Yes. But he even admits that his ego was out of control during that time. He went on The Source, and he talks about how Janet Jackson made him take an AIDS test, and then though she gave him her number,
no. She said she wouldn't do a love scene with him unless he took an AIDS test, and he refused. He said the only way he'd take it is if he was going to fuck her for real. But if they weren't doing that, he ain't having it.
He's like, I'll take 4 AIDS tests. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I know.
He talks about how they kept trying to convince him, and all these people kept coming to his trailer, and he was just telling them to fuck off. And how she did give her number to him, but then the minute the movie was finished shooting, he called the number and it was changed. So
it was disconnected. Yeah,
he talks about how he loves women. He loves Jada Pinkett, Jasmine Guy. He was involved with even Madonna at some point.
He fucked her.
Okay. I think
he was doing a taping of Saturday Night Live back then, where they were in one of the back rooms and they were smoking weed and he doggy styled them.
Wow. So he grew up. I mean, he says he grew up among strong women. Then they started playing "Keep Your Head Up," which is a very powerful song directed at women. We see him on a show with one of the weigh-ins, joking around. Then they start playing the song "I Get Around," which is another side of his. It's a little bit more like him, his promiscuous side.
Being a player, which he was,
right.
Which he admitted to. There are not too many men in the history of the world before the age of 25 that has as many women as he had before he died.
I know. And he talked about how he had famous friends, like Mickey Rourke was a good friend of his, and he was.
Him and Mickey Rourke were real tight. Mickey Rourke visited him while he was in prison and used to write to him all the time. Yeah, Mickey Rourke and Tupac were real tight. And he talks about how it was strange how they were real good friends, and Mickey Rourke was like twice his age and white.
Yeah, and he also was given. He was big good friends with Mike Tyson. And Biggie before they had their falling out. And
Mike Tyson and Tupac were friends for many years. And matter of fact, the night he died, he was attending his fight.
Yeah. So he was talking about how like
recently, Mike Tyson beat somebody up for making fun of Tupac.
Oh, really?
Yeah, check it out. It was all over Instagram and Twitter. Mike Tyson was on somebody's podcast. And the guy had made fun of Tupac, and so Mike Tyson gave the guy a black eye. Yeah.
Wow. So he's saying how he used to love just like going to dirty street parties as a famous guy, and just people recognizing him and like being like, "Oh my God, it's Tupac!" But yeah, so and he
used to be in Harlem all the time after hours. The one time I saw him, I was like, I couldn't believe it. He was among a crowd of people, and motherfuckers were screaming his name, and he raised his hands in the air, and he kept walking. He was like, wow. And, something that he also shared with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali used to love to just walk among the people. And it's like the most famous man in America, Muhammad Ali, and he's walking among people.
With no bodyguards.
Yeah,
with no bodyguards.
Among the people. You don't see that anymore.
Yeah. And he was talking about how half his fans are white, and he's like, these people have jobs in the future, and then give my family jobs. And we see this. They start playing the song "I Get Money," and that's where he started developing the idea of thug life. And he kind of explains it because he's like, look, the cops, no matter what you think you are as a black man in this country, the cops they they
Yep.
view you as a
Yep.
thug.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's the deal. Um, and that's just I'm just being real about it. And but a lot of people didn't understand that, and they thought that he was advocating for black people to become thugs, which is not exactly what he was trying to say there. Um, and then you see him like they're trying to interview him on the street, and he's like, "What's your comment?" And he's like, "That's my comment is thug life, thug life." I'm not sure exactly what they're asking him about this little thing, but that's all he answers to this one reporter. And he's talking about how he in prison that these OG criminals were trying to like get him to be a leader and lead a movement, and he's just like, I'm just this young guy, and like these old fucking G's want me to lead. He's like kind of didn't know what to do with it. He's like people wanted to know what his plan was for black males, and he just kind of he didn't really, I don't think, was ready for that kind of leadership role at that time.
Hey, he
Um,
was too young at the time. He was too young. Yeah.
yeah, and he was like talking about how he would pack these crowds in at his concerts, and they would just do whatever he wanted, and he had them in the palm of his hand, and he just felt like it weird to him because he was just like he felt himself like to be a nobody. He didn't really have the confidence. Then we see Dolores Tucker criticizing him. And in '93, we hear him explaining that thug, his definition of thug is an underdog. It's somebody who's got nothing but keeps their head up high. And he's saying, like, America is thug life. He's like, we're living in a war zone. Like, and he kind of talks about how we're fighting wars like in Bosnia and different places to try to free people. He's like, what about my people? Like, we're in a war. Like, who's going to free us? Um, and he talks about how he developed a code of thug life that was kind of like a code for people living on the street. Basically a code against attacking people who aren't involved, in drive-bys and things like that, trying to make it like less brutal for the people in the hood. And he kind of compares the black males in the hood to like mice in a lab, and it's just like they don't mind you, they'll watch you in that lab, but if you start asking too many questions, then they start like trapping you and blocking you in, and that's where the VP they show the VP saying there's no reason why a record like this should be published in this country. Like just how it was irresponsible that they even published it. And there's Al Sharpton in there. He was critical of Tupac, um, and he kind of Tupac kind of explains in his own words. He's like he gives a kind of a example of a guy who's outside of a hotel. And there's all this food in there, and you can see it, and you just keep asking nicely for food, and they don't let you in. He's like, after about a while, it's gonna turn from like asking nicely to kind of what my records sound like. And he's just like, Martin Luther King asked nicely, Malcolm X asked nicely, and years later, we're not asking anymore. Like so. He talks about how there's a bad part that kids will imitate what he puts in his records, but then the good part is that the kids that are living in those conditions can see that he really relates to them, and so it's a double-edged sword for him, and it always has been. I mean, especially all these rap artists, they have to struggle with that. Like
Yep. Yep.
you depict what's in you're seeing, but is that going to make you a bad influence? And so we see that he was, in his public persona, he was very combative, and then we see him spitting at these cameras that are trying to interview him on the street. that became like there's a lot of famous pictures of him just like spitting into the camera. And he got into a fight with the Hughes brothers. You know about that incident?
Yes, he was given a role. He was offered a role to play a menace to society, and he didn't like the script because the script had him play the punk. So he went and confronted them about it to try to change the script, and they were like, "No, either you take it or leave it." And he beat both brothers up by himself.
Yeah, that was not too smart. So he got charged with assault for that. So another problem.
He had to serve 2 weeks in prison for that beating.
Yeah, 15 days in jail for that.
Yeah.
We see him talking about his big mouth and how he kind of talked too much sometimes. He criticized people just a lot. Like Spike Lee, he kind of threw jabs at him. Arsenio Hall, Eddie Murphy for not giving back to the community enough. Janet Jackson because she had reportedly said that she's not black.
No, not Janet Jackson. Paul Abdul.
Oh, Paul Abdul. Okay. And then Quincy Jones.
Which is true. When Paul Abdul came out, I'm looking at Paul Abdul. She had ass for days when she came out. She had a body on her, and I'm like, she's claiming everything. What she claimed? She claimed she was half Lebanese, half French, Canadian, everything but black. So I understood where Tupac was coming from. Because like, look at the mirror, look at your face, and look at your ass. You are a black woman, and to this day, I've never heard her claim that she's black.
So she doesn't. We don't know for sure whether she's black or not. I mean, we don't know her parents.
She's a black woman, please.
Yeah. So he criticized Quincy Jones for dating white women. And so yeah, then we see his sentencing where he's kind of explaining himself to the jury, and he was given a pretty lenient sentence for what he did, I think. So yeah, so he has problems. He gets into problems with women. We see Dolores Tucker coming up again. Who is Dolores Tucker?
Dolores Tucker was an activist who was the head of the National Congress of Black Women. She was the president of that organization. She was an activist, and she was head set. And I understood why. She was an older black woman. She was doing her best to try to get rid of the negative lyrics in hip hop at the time.
Yeah, like everybody, referring to women as hoes and stuff, and
right.
And he kind of came out with a song that answered that, called "Wonder Why They Call You Bitch," and he's trying to explain in an interview. He's like, "You're not just a bitch if you sleep around. You're a bitch if you sleep around and you try to do it for money." And there's just like there's different kinds of women, and like they're not all bitches, and we don't think they are. They're not all hoes, but there are hoes and there are bitches.
Right.
That's kind of like his take on it. He's like, there's kinds of songs like "I Get Around," like him being a player. Then there's other songs where he's trying to give support to women, like "Keep Your Head Up," and the interviewer kind of confronts him about how, don't you think there's a double standard with men being promiscuous? And he admits that there probably is, but he's like, look, like some women are, some women really are bitches, and some will just like sleep with you for the fame. And he was talking about how he was like in this one club like last year, and like all these women were just ignoring him, and now that he's famous, they all like think he's the greatest thing. And he's like, it's not me, it's the fucking fame. And he just kind of laments that. He's just like, look, like a lot of women, that's all they care about. And then they get to this thing where he's charged with sexual assault because he brought a woman to his hotel room, and then when he fell asleep, I guess she was fondled by some of his crew. And he even admits that he did have a fantasy of having sex with a lot of people in a room.
this was always to be a setup. Always smelled like a setup. He met this girl on the dance club, in the dance club, the nightclub Dell, and
Right,
she
she
gave
blew him.
Horatio the 5 minutes after they met.
Right.
And then
Kind of
4 days later, she comes running out of his hotel room, claiming rape. And of all the charges, he was charged with six or seven counts of rape. He got convicted of one charge, the lesser of all 7 charges, which was sexual abuse or sexual assault, some shit.
basically
But
grabbing her ass.
yeah, the sodomy he was acquitted of. Everything else he was acquitted of except for that.
Yeah. So they had this recording of her on the answering machine talking about how she wanted to come over to fuck. That was erased by the police. And she did, like we said, he engaged in consensual fellatio on the dance floor in front of everybody. So she wasn't like the greatest witness, but they still were pursuing this. And like you said, he got charged with the least of the crimes, basically touching her ass. And he claims that, he fooled around with her a little bit in front of everybody, then fell asleep. And then when he woke up, she was screaming how she was raped and that she's gonna charge them. And he's just like, these weren't even my friends. He's like, I'm just hanging around with people, they're hangers on. I don't know who these people are. Somebody's got the weed. Somebody's got, some tickets to a club. Like, this is how we get people to come around, and then they're not friends. And he's like, I'm being charged with being in concert with these guys, and like, where are they at? Like, they're just after me because I'm famous. Nobody else is being prosecuted. And he just laments. He came out to the courtroom and he's just like, the prosecution is lying about me.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 guys got charged, and he was the only one wound up doing jail time.
Yeah. And there's no semen found, and
no, none of that. No forcible entry, none of that.
Right. So then they jump to the first really high profile Tupac shooting was when he was going to record with Bad Boy, or at least in the same studio.
No, he was what happened? He was offered like $5,000-$10,000 to do a mixtape, and so he it wasn't Bad Boy. It wasn't Bad Boy. Bad Boy had already started, but Andre Harrell was in charge of Uptown Records. I think the deal was with Andre Harrell, not Puffy and Big. Puffy and Big just happened to be there when he went to the studio.
Now, what's your opinion? Do you think that Puffy and Big really they didn't have shit to do with it?
Biggie and Puffy had nothing to do with this. Andre Harrell had nothing to do with this. It was the guys he was involved with at the time, the dudes that were involved in the rape. What was the guy's name? Oh fuck, what was the guy's name? The fucking
Orlando Anderson.
Jack. Haitian Jack was a drug dealer he was hanging out with at the time, who I believe was involved with the NYPD to set him up on the rape. Because he introduced the girl at Nell's to Tupac.
And Haitian Jack was a police informant.
And he was a big time drug dealer at the time in New York.
So this is a shooting that occurred on between 48th and 49th in Manhattan on 7th Avenue.
Right.
And he shot 5 times, twice in the head, twice in the dick. Police don't know, like they just kind of look at it like a straight up robbery. They don't really pursue who did it. And you have Tupac in his own voice saying, like, they don't want to find out who shot me. They're happy that I got shot.
Yep.
But then he starts concocting this story in the Vibe article, in the Vibe interview, about how Biggie and Puffy were involved. Now, we don't know if he really believed that or if he was just using that. Like, what do you think?
I kind of agree with you. I kind of think he knew who was involved, but I think he because he was a master of creating conflict, and a great storyteller. This was his way of, well, when I come out of prison, I'm going to attack these guys. And also remember, while he's in prison, a song by Biggie comes out called "Who Shot You," and so
Right.
boom, oh man, he's talking about me. This could add fuel to the fire.
But was Biggie talking about him in that song? I think he
No,
was.
that song was made before Tupac got shot.
Oh, okay. Because Tupac,
It was released while Tupac was in prison, but he had recorded that song way before Tupac had got shot.
Yeah, because I heard something that said, like, Biggie was talking about how he ran into Pac at a party, and he's like, dude, why are you doing this shit? Like, why are you saying shit about me and Puff? And he's just like, hey, man, I'm just selling records, you know? Like, he just admitted to him straight up, like, it was bullshit.
I believe that story, yes.
So, you know, he in the article, he talks about how when he got shot, how, like, everybody just kind of turned away from him and no one approached me and no one was helping me. But then you see an interview with Puffy and Biggie and they're like, nah, we were all trying to help him. We were like rolling blunts for him and shit. And Biggie was like, you know, I understand if you get shot, like, you're going to be disoriented. You may not remember exactly what's going on, but, like, I'm still kind of pissed about it. You're making this shit up about us. So that's when the beef started big time between East and West Coast that, you know, would end up killing them both. We see a scene of Tupac getting out of court in a wheelchair. He's been found guilty in 3 counts of sexual abuse. We see no sodomy. He's sent to the Clinton Correctional Facility, and he talks about how he had problems with the guards right away, and that, like, he was so surprised to see that the guards just, like, freely used the N-word. And the interviewer is like, what do you mean? You got the N-word in your song? And he's like, no, I got the GGAS, not GGERS.
I love.
What do you say? Are you there? You there? Hello?
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you
No,
hear me
but go
now?
ahead. What do you say? Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, he said the GERS are the ones that were hung in ropes. The GGAS are the ones wearing ropes, wearing gold ropes.
Right, wearing gold chains.
Yeah, go say that.
And he's talking about how he was in jail, and even people that have, like, you know, that are white supremacists with, like, I hate black people on my, like, tattoo are still asking him for autographs. And he's just like, you know, I feel like I made a connection there, you know, like I'm crossing boundaries and shit. And he was talking about how in jail people were thinking about, like, oh, he's gonna be writing tons of shit. He's gonna come out. He's like, no, man. He's like, you can't write songs in jail. Like, jail is fucking soul crushing.
He did write a diary, and he wrote a couple of screenplays, but no rap songs while he was in prison.
Yeah, it's like, it's not fun. So he's talking about how he got a lot of letters from famous people, but, like, the one that meant the most to him was the letters he would get from Tony Danza, of all people. I don't know how Tony Danza became a fan of Tupac, but he was, like, one of his greatest supporters.
And there was a book out. I have the book. Either I have it in my possession or my girlfriend has it. But there's a book where it's a book of photocopies of correspondence he had throughout his life, and I believe there's copies of those letters, as well as from Madonna, Jada Pinkett, and Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Tony Danza was writing to him in prison, which is strange. The appeal this man had. I mean, Tony Danza.
Yeah.
He listens to Frank Sinatra. He doesn't listen to hip hop.
Right. He's an old-fashioned guy.
Yeah.
So his mom at the time was very supportive too, and she would come visit him in jail, and they got close again. And then Me Against the World came out, I guess, while he's in jail, right? Because Me
Against the World came out in April of 1995, right during the middle of his prison stint.
Yeah.
It was the first time it was the first time in the history of music that a guy incarcerated had the #1 album in the country.
Yeah, and that song, I mean, that album was huge, and some great
Great
songs
album.
on there too.
It
Yeah,
was the best album he ever did. Dear Mama, So Many Tears. Oh my
that's
God,
a
just a
great song.
great album. Oh, what was that song? What was that song? Oh shit. What was that song? Fuck. That if I should die. If I should die tonight. Yeah, if I should die
Oh yeah,
tonight.
If I Die Tonight.
Yeah, if I die tonight, that's a great song. If I die. Yeah, So Many Tears. If I die tonight. Dear Mama. Temptation. Just a great album.
Yeah, really good album and great music too. Who was doing the beats on that?
The majority of the production was what's my man Easy Mo B. Easy Mo B,
Okay.
who's an underrated great producer. Easy Mo B was the main producer on that album, Me Against the World.
Yeah, man. So I guess, I don't know if he got dropped or whatever from his record label, but maybe they just didn't.
No. Interscope Records, which released Me Against the World, which was his distributor, went to Suge Knight. Death Row was a subsidiary of Interscope. Went to Death
Oh,
Row and
okay.
said, "Look, you could have him if you bail him out."
I got you. So he bailed him out for 1.3 million, and essentially that was just like, okay, Tupac, you come in to this record label 1.3 million in the hole.
Yep.
And you gotta work your way out of it. And I think he at the time kind of felt like, fuck, like I'm like an indentured servant here. Like I have to, like, I'm coming in with a $1.3 million hole to fill, and so basically all this money that I'm flashing and shit is not even mine. Like I'm not really making money. And he was, I think, like at the time thinking like, I want to get out of this shit like right away. Like I want to, like, that's why he went so crazy writing so many fucking songs. He was like, each song is like a little more payback to this debt I owe. And then, he's also facing the fact that he might actually be going to jail for a long time, right? Because he's appealing his case.
Yep.
And so that's why he's on bail, because they let him be out on bail while his appeal was going through.
If you think about it, Logan, he was sentenced 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison. He served 11 months of that time. Even if he loses his appeal, he's not going to stay long in prison.
Right.
Yeah.
But still,
it might have been better off for him just trying to
ride it out.
He probably would have still been alive. Yeah, if he would have wrote it out another 5 months, he would have went up for parole, and he probably would have gotten parole.
Yeah. But, the temptation was, I mean, someone's going to offer to pay.
Yes, it's understandable. Yeah.
So he gets bailed out by Suge Knight, and this is where he kind of, his persona a little bit changed. Like he was bitter. He felt like he was dissed by the East Coast and by Biggie and Puffy. So he starts like going on a new persona where he's like trying to instill fear in people, and he's talking about how fear is stronger than love. That said, he comes out with a hit single, California Love, with Dr. Dre, which was like probably his biggest single ever.
That's the biggest hit of his career.
Yeah. And that's a great song. I mean, just the great beat, great everything, great
I love that song,
lyrics.
but what I even love, what I like even more than that was a year later when he came out with To Live and Die in L.A. I love those.
Yeah.
Those are two of his best. California Love and To Live and Die in L.A., great fucking songs. They're party songs. They're feel-good songs. They're To Live and Die in. That was just a great songs.
Yeah. So we see him, he's given all kinds of autographs. He's, the public is just adoring him. They're like they love him, and he's having a great time, shooting this video in like a Mad Max costume and shit. He goes to the studio and he's like, I'm trying to do 24 tracks in 2 weeks. Can you imagine? It's like
He
sometimes it's
did it.
tough for.
He did it.
Yeah.
And you know, as a recording artist, how hard that is.
Oh my God. I mean, it takes me like 2 weeks just to do one song, man. Like
It
24,
took
I
him
can't even imagine.
24. Well, remember, he had all this built up rage for being
Right.
locked up for 11 months. So he had all this shit just come flying out the paper. And people have said, Biggie, artists have said that whenever they've hung out with Tupac, it could be 2 o'clock in the morning. He's on the toilet taking his shit right in the rod.
Yeah. He never stopped. And
Yeah.
somehow he kind of knew that his life was going to get cut short because it's almost
That's
like he
why
was in a hurry.
like he said, he said in his own words, he was going to the studio every day dropping 3 songs.
Right. And so that's, I mean, a lot that explains why so much of his music got released after his death. He just had so much
he
in the
released
tank.
like 11, 12 albums since his death. You're right. Yeah.
Amazing. More than probably anyone ever after they died.
It's not even close. And it's funny,
Yeah.
right? Prince has a lot of unreleased songs, and nothing's been released since he died. And Prince been dead 3 years.
I'm sure there's some legal fights going on about those.
Probably,
But, yeah.
right. Who owns the rights to that music? That's why it hasn't been released, right?
So we see that he does the song "Ain't Nothing But a Gangsta Party" with Snoop. That's another big song.
Yeah, two of America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, and he's flashing money and stuff, but he even says, I owe money to Death Row. And he's got a lot of lawsuits also against him that he had to settle for all the different stupid shit that he got into. He got into a lot of stupid shit. I mean, you got to say that about him. He wasn't entirely, like, he was out of control, and which is understandable. Somebody that young, getting that much fame that quickly, it's hard for it not to go to your head. And then we see him at the Grammy Awards in 1996, and then on the set of Gridlocked with Jim Belushi. Or no, not Jim Belushi, the other guy, Tim Raw.
Tim Raw.
Yeah. Then he did what was that other movie he did with Jim Belushi? I forget what it was called.
Gang Related.
Gang Related. That was his last movie, I think, right?
That movie has the song Review. Staring Through My Review, which they play at the beginning and at the end of this movie.
Yes. And we see him singing some corny song with Ice-T on a show, kind of having a good time.
That was great. I remember watching that. Him and Ice-T, that was a great scene. That was a show called Saturday Night Special, which I believe was a Roseanne Barr show that was trying to compete with Saturday Night Live that flopped.
Yeah, okay. Then we see him in this fucking around with a Rick James wig on. And just playing it like he used to have a lot of fun in the studio. We see him on stage at the music awards with Kiss behind him. Just some great footage here. And you talk about Suge Knight, who was starting to get a worse reputation than Tupac. I mean, he's like this big guy, 30 years of age. He's the head of a $100 million record company, and he's known as a gangster. And we have Tupac explaining kind of like, why people act the way they act, and like kind of explaining away Suge Knight's behavior, being like, we're in hell, how are you going to act like an angel in hell, man? Like, you need to, like, sometimes you got to act like a thug. And then we see Suge Knight I think it's at the Grammys, where he's criticizing the way that Puffy, puts himself in all the videos and shit. And it's just like, if you want to,
No, that was the Source Award. That was while Tupac was in prison. Suge Knight came out, and this is a very infamous word. He's like, if you don't want your record producer dancing in your video, all up in your record, come to Death Row.
Yeah, call me. Yeah, come to Death Row. And then they didn't get a good reception there. A lot of people were booing them, and that's when Snoop.
That's because that award show was held in Brooklyn. And
right.
So there's a famous scene where Snoop Dogg was receiving an award. He goes, "I know we're in New York. I know we're East Coast. I know that. I know where we at."
Yeah, but he's like, "You ain't got love for California," and like that kind of
you ain't got
started
love
the whole.
For Snoop Dogg. You ain't got love for West Coast.
Then we see that Biggie and Puffy skit that was put in a video of Tupac's where it's almost like a takeoff on the skit on the scene in Scarface where they get
Yeah,
where he
yes,
gets the
yes,
call.
yes. It wasn't takeoff of that. Yeah.
Yeah, where they get the call and they're like, "We didn't get him," and then they kind of hang up, and he knows that he calls the one guy's name is I think Duff, and then the other guy's name is Pig.
No, one
So
is Buff and the other is Piggy. Yeah.
Piggy, yeah. So and then he talks about how he did a song with Faith Evans. Now he does the song "Hit 'Em Up." He talks about how he fucked, he raps about how he fucked Biggie's wife, but I don't think he did. I think he's just
Remember the
saying that.
song? Remember the song? You mentioned it. I wonder why they call you bitch.
Yeah.
She was originally on that song. She did the song with him, but Puffy, because she was part of Bad Boy, refused to release her tracks, so they had to change the female singer on the song.
Oh, okay. Well, in any case, I don't think. Do you think he actually fucked Biggie's wife?
I think he used that as a fuel for fire. I don't think.
Yeah.
Remember, he was like a pro wrestler. He was like
Right.
the ultimate heel at that time. Just fake, fueling the front flames.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like, I think in many ways, like, if you look at that feud, Biggie was the face for sure until like Tupac died.
Well, it depends on what part of the country you were. He was a face in New York, but in L.A., Tupac was the face. Because remember,
I guess,
when Biggie would go out to L.A., they would, and the biggest mistake Biggie made was 6 months after Tupac died, he goes to L.A., and that's when he gets murdered.
Yeah, it's true,
he's
but
the heel. He's the fucking heel. It was kind of very similar to the Hart Foundation Steve Austin feud, where in America Steve Austin was the face, and in Canada Steve Austin was the heel.
true, but I mean, even in that feud, like, there was an objective truth. Like, Tupac was the heel. He was a dick. He was lying.
Right.
He was saying that,
right. But it
but you're right.
on what part
of
the country you were in. I mean, and in most of the country, Biggie was seen as the heel because the East Coast versus
was a
West
bigger
Coast, really
market.
East Coast versus East Coast. It was really East Coast versus West Coast, South, Midwest, whatever. That was representing Tupac, and Biggie was just representing the East Coast. So it was really the majority of the country. Tupac was the face, even though he was the ultimate heel.
Right, but like in New York, like, and I think in most of hip hop, I think hip hop generally like was mad at Tupac. Like, they thought that he was fucking around. Like, and then it almost was like Biggie was when he was like alive was a little bit bigger than Tupac. What do you think? I thought he got
depending on the top. No, in 1995, Biggie was the biggest rapper on the planet. In 1996, Tupac was the biggest rapper on the planet. Remember, 95, Biggie is still riding high on Ready to Die.
Ready to Die, yeah.
Right. In 1996, All Eyes on Me is just destroying the competition. So in 1996, Tupac is the biggest rapper on the planet. In 1995 is Biggie. In 1994 was Tupac with all the controversy, Me Against the World, so forth. So it depended on the year. They were back. And then in 97, Tupac is dead. Biggie comes out with Life After Death. He's the biggest rapper on the planet. Then he gets murdered. So it was going back and forth. Yeah. They were 1A and 1B. They were the two biggest rappers on the planet. And everybody else was fighting for crumbs.
Right, but the thing about, I mean, when you look at them, step back and look at their career, like Tupac, I mean, he just demolished Biggie in terms of the volume of what he did.
Yeah, because of his volume and because of his acting ability and his charisma. I mean, his charisma, but Biggie had no charisma whatsoever. Biggie was a great lyricist, a great rapper, but as you can see, when they're talking about their feud, Biggie barely has anything to say. When he does talk, Biggie wasn't the greatest talker. He couldn't talk.
He couldn't even look at the camera. I mean, his eyes are always closed.
Well, while Pac was the quintessential showman.
Yeah. And he was great in interviews. Like, he was very well spoken.
It's sort of like, and we'll talk about this next week, Ali Frazier. Ali
Yep.
was great at talking, while Joe Frazier couldn't put two sentences together.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, in many ways, like, I think.
And in that case, Ali was the heel, but the majority of the country loved him.
Right. You're right. That's a perfect analogy, because it was sort of the same thing here. And Tupac was like, I think he was in death is bigger than Biggie, right? Like, after being
in death, he's bigger than everybody but Elvis, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison.
He's bigger than everybody but those guys, right?
Right. So he transcended the genre itself.
Yeah.
Whereas Biggie kind of he's firmly entrenched in the genre, but he never went outside of it like Tupac
Remember,
did.
Tupac's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a good chance Biggie will never be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So he's just talking about how he's in death row, he's successful, but he's not happy. And so we see that, like, maybe these are the seeds that led to maybe Suge setting him up to be killed. We don't know. But what's your theory about why he was shot? Do you think it was just a beef from the guy he beat up?
I always think it had to do with the guy he beat up, because the guy's uncle was involved in the murder. The guy's uncle has admitted to this, but for some reason, no charges have been brought up. There's been several documentaries and TV shows that have proven that it was Orlando Anderson and his uncle that killed Tupac.
Okay. Well, in any case, he did feel trapped.
Yeah.
He did feel trapped in the deal with death row. He felt like something was going to happen to him because he said he's like, because I'm paranoid, and he did a whole video where he kind of prophesized his death.
He filmed that video, I think, 10 days before he was murdered.
Yeah, amazing. And even in his own words says it was a prophecy. This is like before he's shot, so it's weird. Eerie, really. And then we see the video of him, the footage of him jumping Orlando Anderson with a bunch of people after the Tyson versus Selden fight. Then we see him and Suge Knight in the car. The scene after the shooting, and he died at 4:03, which was later put into a video. I think like a clock in one of his later songs had that time of his death in there. And some people thought that the video came out before his death, but it didn't. It came out after.
It was 4:03 Pacific time, September 13th, 1996. It was 7:03 Eastern time. September 13th, 1996, when they finally pulled the plug.
And it was weird. I remember when he was shot, and everyone kind of thought he would just pull through again like he did the first time.
The original reports from the hospital was that he was in serious but stable condition and not considered life-threatening. Then the day after, all of a sudden, oh no, he's in a coma.
Right. And then he just got progressively worse and died. And they did take out a lung. Chances are that he would not have had a career with one lung. I mean, how are you gonna fucking be a rapper with one lung?
He could have still acted.
Yeah, but his rap career would have been over, I think. But whatever, he didn't make it. Some claim that
but he had all this unreleased material that he could have just kept making money off of while he acted.
That's true. I mean, the money that his records generated after his death, I think the only person to ever surpass that was Eminem after being in the game 20 fucking years.
Yes. I think Eminem and Jay-Z are the only ones to outsell Tupac since Tupac's death. Eminem and Jay-Z.
And
these
and
are
they have
guys
many
that
more years.
Yeah. Eminem 20 years and Jay-Z 23 years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they show that they play the song "Changes," which is kind of like his last big
I
hit.
love that song. Love that song. Great song.
Yeah, and it's
one of the
very.
best songs one of the best songs you ever did with the that's just the way it is sample.
Yeah, and it's very a lot of message, like good message in that song, and not not the thug shit that a lot of his songs had. So in the end, he ended on a good note with that song, and he just he in his own words, he talks about how most of his songs are just like messages to young black males that if you really want to make it, you can. And he was trying to be hopeful, and he did his best, but he was cut short at a very young age. I mean, how old was he when he died? 27?
25.
25. Damn.
25.
So yeah, it's just they just end it there, and they don't really get into the conspiracy and stuff like that about whether he's still alive.
It's in his own words, so you can't get into that.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that I think in some interviews, which they did not include, he talks about like faking his death or something, doesn't he? I don't know.
Yes,
but I just
yes.
okay.
But I don't know if MTV owned the rights to that. This was footage that they were either owed the rights to or they were able to acquire through his mother.
Right. So there you go. I mean, so they're not gonna, and then this is a tasteful. They're not gonna get into that crazy shit about him being.
And plus, this is him talking about every step of his life while he's in the public eye. This is him in his own words, right? So faking his own death, it wouldn't have made sense for them to put that in the documentary.
In any case, they would not be able to make this about Biggie because he said like 3 words, so they wouldn't be able to do it. But and they. But it's always good when you have this much vocal recording of a guy. You can do something like this, and they did a great job. So it's definitely worth watching. I don't know if you'll learn anything new, but it just gives you a better idea of the man, Tupac himself, and his own words. So he's remarkably compelling remarkably charismatic, right? I mean, definitely one of the more charismatic figures in the game.
The most charismatic character in the history of hip hop is not even close. I think the closest would be LL Cool J would be the closest, a distant second.
Or Ice-T, he's another one.
Oh, Ice-T definitely is in the top 5. Ice Cube, they're the top 5. Snoop Dogg has while not a great speaker, has a charismatic air to him, where he walks in the room and everybody wants that, because he's like that, he's got that lovable smile, and he's always smiling, and think about it. Snoop Dogg 25 years ago was on trial for murder, and today he's hobnobbing Martha Stewart.
Yeah, I mean he's like a billionaire, man. And then
I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Jay-Z has 0 fucking charisma. All right, get the fuck out of here.
No, he's one of the guys that has none. I mean, really, when you see him, like you're like surprised.
Charisma. He's boring as a fuck. Oh my god.
Yeah. And Tupac dissed him pretty hard. I remember back in the day too, like calling him gazy
because of his association with Biggie.
Yeah. He ragged on Mobb Deep. I remember him ragging on all kinds of different people, even LL at one point. But I think he was just fucking around there. But in any case, Tupac, he took no prisoners. He was just a phenomenon, really. I mean, he took hip hop to a different level that we've ever seen. So you got to give it to him. Though he did stand on the shoulders of some greats, he took it to another level. And you still, I mean, I believe this too. You think he's the greatest rapper of all time, right?
I'm talking about if you combine it. I'm not talking about lyrically. As
Right.
far as a rapper, he's not better than Nas. He's not better than Rakim. He's not better than
Right.
Biggie. Oh, Jay-Z's a better rapper. If just the flow.
The
But
skill,
when you talk about
the whole package.
the whole package, charisma, the different types of music he could do. He could do gangster, social conscious, political, uh, humor, all of that in one. Dance music, all of that in one. The aura that he carried, like Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali wasn't the greatest boxer of all time, but he's the greatest boxing figure of all time.
The
Tupac
greatest
Shakur,
superstar.
not even
Yeah.
Tupac Shakur is the greatest rap superstar of all time. Period. End of story. He's the greatest rap figure of all time. Period. End of story.
Yeah. It'll be hard. It'll be hard to surpass him. But and he's influenced so many people too. Like, although I would say that even though like somebody like Kendrick Lamar says he was very influenced by Tupac, I don't see a lot of Tupac in Kendrick Lamar.
I see Kendrick Lamar. No, I see that. I see that. And really, the biggest influence. Remember he's talking about doing for the community and stuff like that. Nipsey Hussle, who recently died. Tupac was an idol of his, and he lived his life, and he tried to go by Tupac's the tenets that Tupac said. And
I see.
Nipsey Hussle was a huge Tupac disciple.
Yeah, and Nipsey Hussle's starting to achieve that kind of Tupac level status too after his death. Like I see T-shirts with just his face on it now.
Because people are looking at what he was doing in his community and like, wow, it's coming to the forefront. He did so much in silence. I mean, he was just minding his own business and keeping to himself, doing his music and just doing for his people. He didn't try to he didn't try to broadcast it. He was a humble dude. And now, since his death, people are seeing, wow, this guy, he did a lot for his people and his community.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of credit now. But he was almost totally unknown, right, before he
He had just released his first album. It was, he had some mixtapes, but his first real album was just released, and I don't think there's much music left for him, which is sad. The man,
he's
man
great.
did a lot of good work. Yeah, he's great. He's one of the few artists today that I listen to.
Yeah, he's really good. None of that fucking mumble rap for him, man. He's
not a
lyricist.
Rap. Hell to the no. He's not a mumble trap rap. What's he called? Trap music? Fucking mumble music. The fuck
I hate that shit.
that ruined hip hop. Ruined hip hop.
It did.
Trap music is like when Hulk Hogan went over Triple H back in 2002 is when I stopped listening to rap music.
It's amazing, man. Like, but people are way into it, man. They love it. Like, I just don't get it, but whatever.
It's music best listened to while you're indulging in chemicals, right?
I guarantee you, though, in like 10 years, none of that shit's gonna be like no one's gonna be listening to that shit.
That's sad. That music will not. You won't be hearing that music in 10, 15 years. No.
Right.
No.
It doesn't have staying power. Like
it doesn't
you still
stand
hear
the test
Biggie.
of time. Right.
You still hear Biggie and Tupac bumping out of cars.
You're always going to hear Biggie, Tupac, LL Cool J, Run DMC, Nas. You're going to hear Jay-Z. You're going to hear that. You're going to hear the great music. None of this shit out today, you're going to hear. No.
And well, you look at Jay-Z though, like he's done a lot of shitty songs too. Like, I mean, he's done some great shit, but like some of his songs, like I'm like, what do you like? This dude, after a while, like, man, you write too many fucking songs. Like, you got nothing else to say.
But you gotta
like,
understand, he's 75 years old. He's not, and he's a damn near billionaire. He's not hungry.
Yeah. He's not hungry,
Logan, to make great music in hip hop, you got to be hungry. That motherfucker is fat. He's super fat. He's not cool.
Yeah, and he's got Beyonce there. Like so
there's no need for it. He's not. Please. So whatever he comes out with is a hobby. It's It's just a
Yeah,
hobby
yeah.
now. It's like,
He doesn't have the hunger, right?
yeah.
Um, Eminem. I mean, he's still coming out with decent stuff, I guess.
But he's not hungry. You compare
Nah.
Eminem today to Eminem from 20 years ago. It's two
Oh yeah,
different animals. Yeah.
yeah.
That the Eminem
He's
that came out with Slim Shady, he was starving. He was
yeah.
destitute. All right, yeah.
Big difference. And he
Yeah.
also had a big drug problem he had to deal with, and I think he's never been the same since that.
He's
So
never
it's
been
just,
the same since then. You're right, and people don't talk about that. But yeah, he's never been the same. And we're talking about from 2000 to 2009, the first decade. Eminem was the first rapper to be the #1 artist for a decade.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it has nothing to do with him being white, right? I'm just kidding.
It's a combination of that. Yeah, he's the hip hop Elvis. The hip
All right.
hop
Well,
Elvis, without a doubt. The hip hop Elvis.
yeah, for big, and he even calls that stuff out on his own videos. I think every once in a while he puts himself in an Elvis suit, so he knows very well
Yeah,
where.
he knows. He's a history of music. He's a student of music. He knows the history.
Yeah, and at the end of this, I think he produced this. He was one of the producers.
He was the producer of the soundtrack.
Right, and so there's the song
yeah.
with a sample on it where he and Biggie and Tupac are on it. So I think the soundtrack would be worth getting on this. So a lot of good stuff on there. So let's see if new tracks, any new Tupac tracks come out, man. I don't know if there's any more left, but
I think they've been all dried up because there hasn't been an album out in a while.
Yeah. Well, in any case, we'll be looking out for it, and I'm sure we already reviewed the All Eyes on Me movie, which was pretty damn good, and I'm sure it's not the last we'll hear about him. I'm sure there'll be more.
There's
Tupac
a Johnny Depp movie that's yet to be released that was done 2 years ago about the murders, where he plays the cop investigating the murders of both Biggie and Tupac. And for some reason, it hasn't been released yet. With Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker, two major movie stars in the movie, is yet to be released.
I mean, they released that documentary, which I believe kind of implicated Suge Knight mostly, because one of the bodyguards claimed that he thought it was Suge Knight, but there's really no proof of that. Suge Knight, regardless, is in jail right now, and I don't think he's going to be getting out before he dies.
And he's in jail for the rest of his life.
Yeah. So
man,
whatever you think of him.
He just got convicted of murder. It's a wrap for him.
Yeah, he just tried to run a couple people over with his truck, or he did run over them.
Yeah, he killed the guy.
Man, fucking stupid motherfucker. Anyway, so Death Row's dead then, right? There's no Death Row.
But Death Row's been dead since the mid-2000s.
Yeah. So who was their last big guy? Was it fucking The Game?
No, Game was trying to have Suge Knight as his manager, but The Game wasn't part of a Death Row.
Okay. So what was the last big record that Death Row put out?
Their last big star was Tupac.
That was it.
Yeah, he didn't have a star after Tupac. Yeah, that was it.
Oh man.
Because after Tupac died and Suge Knight went to jail, everybody else bolted.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be looking at the next big documentary of. Is it the same director or is it just the same company?
No. Watch My Name, Muhammad Ali. The executive producer is LeBron James, and the director is Antoine Fuqua, the great director who's directed Training Day and a whole bunch of Denzel, The Equalizer 1 and 2, and he's Denzel's right-hand man. Antoine Fuqua, who's married to the very sexy Sunshine from Harlem Nights, Layla Rashawn.
Oh.
So, yeah. And Antoine Fuqua is the director of What's My Name, Muhammad Ali. Same concept. Muhammad Ali's entire life and career in his own words.
All right, so we'll be looking at that next week. So One Silver Man, have a good one. We'll talk then.
And this is it's a It's a 2-part, 4-hour documentary, just to let you know, all right?
All right. I'll get prepared. Start watching it now.
All right, Big Man.
All right.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Peace.
Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.